Hey Zingers, it's Dan Leach, and I have a wonderful trio of guests for you today from Cboe Global Markets. It's Meaghan Dugan, the SVP and head of U.S. Options, Ali Szakats, the VP and head of the Options Institute, and Cathy Clay, EVP and Global Head of Derivatives. Welcome to one and all. It is so great to be with you all today.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Well, Cathy, let's start with you. Could you introduce yourselves and speak to your roles at Cboe?
Sure. So I'm Cathy Clay, Global Head of Derivatives, as you mentioned. I lead our options and futures exchanges here in the U.S., our European derivatives exchange, and our global team of salespeople of Options Institute is part of the team, as well as Cboe Labs, which is our product innovation arm for our derivatives business.
Hi, my name is Meaghan Dugan. I'm head of options at Cboe Global Markets. I recently joined back in February of this year, and I'm excited to be joining my esteemed team members here at Cboe. My remit essentially is running the U.S. options markets. We operate 4 U.S. options markets, including our proprietary products, as well as our multi-list products.
And I'm Ali Szakats. I lead the Options Institute, which is the education team here at Cboe. The team and I are responsible for bringing high quality and high impact educational experiences and content to retail and institutional clients all around the world. And excitingly, this year, the Options Institute is celebrating 40 years in existence. So in 2025, we are celebrating even more the importance of education in global financial markets.
It's awesome. Happy anniversary. 40 years is no joke. Well, Meaghan, let me go over to you. Can you shed some light on what it's like to work as a woman in finance?
Sure. So thinking about this question ahead of time, really made me think of a couple of different points in my career that I just wanted to maybe highlight to be able to give some background. In my early years, my early career, I was trading on the Pacific Coast Options Exchange. Actually, I read along with Cathy, which we're very grateful to share a similar past. And at that time, as a young woman on a trading floor that was very manual at that point in time, it looked and feel very different than it does today. It was very much merit-based. So you either kind of were able to swim to the other side, or you were sort of sinking. And it did not really matter too much from a gender perspective. At the end of the day, if you didn't achieve your results, essentially you couldn't continue going to the next component of your career. So I learned at an early part, from that standpoint, is merit really what is everything, and how you handle yourself and how you engage yourself in every situation. The gender change, definitely, I was treated differently for sure. There were very few women, probably Cathy, 3-4 of us on the trading.
12 women out of about 550 traders. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it was much different from that standpoint. Yes. But again, if you couldn't hold up your end of the bargain, you couldn't really continue on to your path. So the curiosity and the tenacity of continuing on and being curious and trying to help solve, what you're looking to solve for at that point in your life, is an area that from my earlier years in this career kind of started my foundation. As I continued on, I would say that as my lifestyle changed, and for me, essentially having children and kind of having a family, flexibility became more of an asset into that world, into continuing my career, wanting to continue to advance and continue my ambition. But it looked and felt different because I was no longer 22 years old on the trading floor, but I'm in my early 30s and having children. So, I think that the flexibility aspect and the continued dynamic of knowing that everybody's lifestyles change as your career can adopt in your position, and your company can help adopt and go along with you, that is always a great space to be in. If they don't, then it's not a great fit, but you really try to make solutions around sort of the different spots in your life and lifestyle that you're at, because as men do too, we all need to juggle different things to be able to continue moving in both directions, your home lifestyle as well as your professional and career side. So I would say those two areas, sort of experiences, are sort of what one I wanted to sort of bring out in this conversation today, because it really depends on the audience that's listening and seeing this in what part of their lives that they are currently in.
Oh, it's beautifully said. And Cathy, I go over to you. What has been being a trailblazer like for you?
Yeah, well, I think the numbers speak a bit for themselves. When you have a dozen women out of 550 available seats on a trading floor, it speaks to the difficulty of being a woman in an environment like that, an environment where a lot of women just wouldn't choose to be in that situation. But I would say that I think early on, and Meaghan probably experienced this as well, there's an early recognition of taking what may be a perceived weakness or vulnerability and actually turning it into a strength. The fact that there were so few women in each of the trading pits meant that our voices actually stood out a bit more. So when we're responding to a broker call for an order, our voices actually are different from the rest of the crowd. And so you kind of are actually able to capitalize on a difference that could have been perceived as a difference that wouldn't serve you well, but actually turned out to serve us quite well. And I think that's an early lesson that women in any career can take forward, is how do I take what is perceived of me and actually turn that into a strength and see the positive side of that side. So I think, Meaghan, I don't know if that's your experience, but it seemed like that played out well on the floor.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely agree with you. We definitely stood out.
You definitely turned it on its head, which is just a great way to advance things. Allie, when it comes to you, what's the experience been like for you?
Yeah, I would add, and I totally agree with what Cathy and Meaghan shared, but I would say it's also exciting, especially the specific area that we work in, derivatives markets. They are fast-paced, and they're filled with a lot of really smart people and really creative individuals and teams. And I know that was a really big draw for me when I joined the space. I wanted to work with people who I always felt had more experience, who were smarter than I was, because I knew it would level me up. So to Meaghan's point, it was about working hard. It was about staying curious. My gender, I think, thankfully, had actually less to do with my ability to progress in the space and in my career. And to this day, I get to invite a lot of creative solution and problem solving into the mix, and it keeps it really interesting.
Let me stay with you here, Allie. We'll get to Cathy and Meaghan about this as well. But when it comes to, women considering a career in finance, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so thinking about this one thing that I wish that I heard a little bit earlier on in my life was that there are a lot of paths to explore when you hear the word finance. I think when you're in college, it's really easy to consider the roles of trader or banker, these sort of codified, known existences in our space. But there are so many other roles that exist that are lesser known and equally as valuable and important to keeping our system alive and running really smoothly and evolving even. So I would suggest exploring those paths. And in order to do that, you have to meet with people. You have to ask for the introduction. You have to connect with the new person. And then you have to be brave and ask about their experiences and try to understand a little bit more of the landscape, because there could be a role out there that is in finance that is possibly a better fit for you and plays into your skill sets even more strongly, and you just haven't heard of it yet.
No, it's a fantastic advice, Allie. And Meaghan, back to you. And obviously the landscape's changed a lot. You and Cathy talked about in ways being trailblazers and how that can obviously help things as well. But when you look at, someone, a woman wanting to get in finance right now, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I would say don't forget to ask for what you want, right? I think one big thing that young folks, I think, tend to not be as vocal or confident in their voice to be able to kind of articulate things that they were looking for. So I would say that, it's important to be able to state the obvious sometimes. Let's have a realistic conversation with, a couple of mentors and kind of look at the lay of the land and see what kind of incites passion for you and what incites, an area of learning and growth. But don't forget to sort of speak up and kind of ask for what you want as well, because sometimes if you can't articulate it, then it doesn't come to fruition, and it continues to kind of evolve in sort of like a kind of linear way, and not necessarily as dynamic as maybe you're looking for. So I think that it can be true of career progression, and it can be true of compensation conversations when people get very uncomfortable around talking about asking for additional compensation for their roles. I think it doesn't hurt to ask what you want.
Oh, it's obviously very important advice as well. Cathy, what about you?
Yeah, I think we get a real world example every summer when 50 to 60 interns come into Cboe. And of course, I want every one of them to go into finance because, of course, I'm biased. And I think finance is so great for a multitude of reasons, not just a great profession, but what it teaches you in terms of managing your own finances, your own economic outcomes, and so forth. But I've noticed as these intern groups come in that they're as varied as we are as individuals. And yet there tends to be some path, I think as Ali was alluding to, there's some path that resonates with individuals, whether I'm a people person, I want to be talking to people. There's all these great sales roles in myriad financial institutions, or I'm a quant. I really like to be in the data. I want to do heavy compute, complex problem solving. There's roles for those types of people in finance. I mean, I think if you named any interest or characteristic of an individual, you can find that position in a financial context. So I'm always pushing the interns into finance. I always want to keep them interested in what finance can offer. And I do think there's potentially a home for anyone, unless you're really just against capitalism and want to, go into nonprofits or something.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone feels that way, but no, it's a fascinating time to be alive, and listen, it's a great time. Gender shouldn't matter, but to be able to further things makes it just that much better. And being here with 3 girl bosses is pretty awesome for me. I'm very honored and humbled to be able to talk to you guys today, so you can talk to other people about what it's taking to get involved with this. And if I can stay with you, Cathy, and I want to talk to Meaghan about this as well. How does Cboe create access to its markets and reduce barriers for retail traders around the world?
So it's what we spend a lot of our time on. And Ali, of course, helps with the Options Institute and the curriculum that she is distributing globally through our partners and clients. But really, it comes down to understanding how the client needs to access us and which channels are available for that client to come to us. And if you think about a US client, it's going to be a very different pathway than, say, an Asia Pacific client. And so our job is to really understand where that client is in their own journey and understand how we might help them connect the dots to get access to our markets. Because many of these individual traders really know of our proprietary products, the S&P 500, the VIX, really well known. It is the access challenge. And it starts with getting them the data, frankly. They can't trade unless they have the data. So a lot of times we're trying to knock down barriers just to get them the market data. It means that we need to keep market data fees lower for retail traders so that that's not just another obstacle or barrier that they have to overcome. And then when they come to our exchange, we need to provide them a safe, good environment with to trade. And that means curating pools of liquidity with our other clients to make sure that they have a good trading experience. So there's all these responsibilities we feel as that intermediary exchange, bringing these clients, into the central location to express their sentiment, hedge their risk, etc. But that is our job, to make sure people can have access and then a good experience on our exchanges.
Meaghan, your thoughts on that?
I help execute that. I help try to make work very closely with all of our teams to be able to really drill down to the workflows, because as Cathy mentioned, it's very much how do we make things easy for people to connect into us, and because that is, from a FINRA perspective, not possible. They have to go into a U.S. broker dealer to who are members of our exchange to gain access into our markets. There's a series of levels and layers, I should say, to be able to make sure that we have open pathways. So they have introductions to broker dealers that are members of our exchange. And we do this pretty broadly across all of our members because we were seeing so much more interest coming from the Asia Pac region, and specifically coming into the US to trade US products. So we want to be closer to our the end client, but we also need to ensure that we're connecting them with, a group of broker dealers that do provide that access and that connectivity point into the exchange itself. But we also really want to tell our story and continue to educate to Ali's area and specialty. That's really important to us. We want people to understand the nuances and the great benefits of trading options across the globe, and how accessible they are, and how they do help fit sort of a lot of variety of different portfolios. So it's really a multifaceted effort, as Cathy mentioned, and I'm just happy to be part of it and seeing how much it's a big focus of ours here at Cboe this year.
It's awesome. Let's go to the source. Let's go right to Ali here. And along with those initiatives, how is Cboe, Ali, looking to bring education to global investors? We know it's an incredible time to be involved in investing, but there's a lot to learn.
It's true. And I think Cathy and Meaghan summed it up really well. Knocking down barriers is what we're responsible for doing, and lack of education or lack of awareness to products is a barrier. So that's what the Options Institute is trying to solve for and has been solving for in its very tenured history. What's really exciting is that we're moving into a more international arena, thanks to Cathy's leadership and the rest of Cboe. It's a brand new chapter for the Options Institute and for myself personally to bring education to such a global investor base and not just focus on the US, which has been our bread and butter for some time. So to do this well, it means we really needed to know what we were going to do and understand who we were going to be offering education to. So the current and prospective learner bases. And one of the resounding things that we learned in doing our research is that students want to be met where they are. Just like Cathy said, clients want to be met where they are and their needs filled. So that means for us providing education that actually helps that student where they are and helps them build competencies and skills that have them move and change the behavior and put it into practice. So we design and launch content that is in a range of formats and experience levels to do that. And then finally, when you think about going global, you can't ignore the language piece. So meeting students where they are in their native language is really important. So we've started broadcasting our education offerings into Europe and soon to be in APAC. And we are instructing in local language. So Spanish, Hindi, Dutch are a couple examples. There are many more to follow on the roadmap. So it's a pretty incredible time. It's an incredible undertaking. But when you think about what Cboe does and has excelled at for many, many years, which is creating really high quality markets and really high quality products to manage risk, the Options Institute is complementing that dialogue all across the board and making sure that we're helping investors make really great decisions.
And Allie, I know the Options Institute is celebrating 40 years. That's an incredible amount of time and really an incredible, institute as well.
It's incredible. It's a very important milestone, and I'm very honored to be at the helm to celebrate 40 years. It also is a testament to Cboe's commitment to education. Our firm launched the first option contract in 1973, and just 12 years after that, they founded the Options Institute. So the commitment to education has been there since the beginning, really, of our history. And though we initially were formed as a team to educate traders on the floor and then some clients of ours, we've really evolved as a team, and we offer services to such a broad range of current and potential investors. And the fact that Cboe has backed that and has made that such a core part of its identity for so many years is really an exceptional milestone. And we're really proud to be able to be here and celebrate all of those accomplishments.
Meaghan Dugan, SVP, Head of U.S. Options, Ali Szakats, VP and Head of the Options Institute, and Cathy Clay, EVP and Global Head of Derivatives from Cboe Global Markets. That was an absolutely fascinating conversation. Thanks so much for joining me today. It really was a true pleasure talking with each and every one of you.